Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kathleen and today's video I wanted to go ahead and share with you guys the books that I read in the month of August. So August I had an incredible reading month. I read a total of 8 books and I'm really proud of myself. I do have to contribute a lot to my reading for Booktubeathon because I actually did pretty well for Booktubeathon this year. Even though I read 8 books, I am only going to talk about 5 because the other 3 books I actually read during Booktubeathon, and I did a whole separate Booktubeathon wrap up which I'll leave it linked on the screen if you guys would like to check out and see which books I read during Booktubeathon. But I still had a great rest of the month reading wise and I'm so proud of myself. But let's go ahead and get started with the other 5 books that I read during the month of August. Alright, and so the first book that I finished during the month of August is Language of Thorns by Leigh Bardugo. I actually started reading this during Booktubeathon but I never finished. This is actually a series of fairy tales based on the Grisha world. So basically these are fairy tales that the characters from the Grisha world grew up hearing about and listening to. I was so excited to read this book because I do love the Shadow and Bone trilogy as well as the Six of Crows duology. They are absolutely fantastic and it's a really beautiful world. I really enjoy these fairy tales. A lot of them have really nice messages to them. A lot of them even were very, in my opinion, very similar to the fairy tales that we grew up hearing in our world. So I really love this book. I can't choose a favorite. There were a couple that really stuck up with me and there were others that I was just like, oh okay, it's a nice story. But overall I gave this entire book 4 stars because overall the stories within this book I either gave it 4 stars or 5 stars individually. So on average it's about a 4-star rating for me. If you guys have read the Grisha world books, I will highly recommend picking this up because it's a really fantastic set of stories. And then the next book that I read, this book took me a whole month in August to read. I wasn't crazy about the book to be honest, and it is King's Cage by Victoria Aveyard. This is the 3rd book in the Red Queen Quartet, so there is one more book after this, but this book I gave 2.5 stars. It was okay, but I feel like this book is really unnecessary. I do feel like nothing really important happens. There are a few key moments that was really interesting and that it was really cool to learn, but I feel like she could have made the series into a trilogy, not a quartet. The few important key points in this book could have been either put on the 2nd book or in the final book. It took me so long to read it. I really had to push myself to continue reading this book because I felt like it's just a huge filler. I just ended up giving 2.5 stars. And the next book that I read is Grayson Theory by Tracy Banghart. This is the Owl Crate cover, by the way. The original cover looks very different. So this is a fantasy world where women they're not treated very well. It is a world where it's very male dominated and it is a world where women don't have a lot of authority. They don't have a lot of rights. There are these 2 sisters. One sister is being prepped to become a Grace, and Graces are basically these ideal images of women. So they are prepped their entire lives to become these perfect women and they serve basically the royal family. And her sister, she's very rebellious. She sees the world for what it is, and that is a place that is not good for women, and she is not afraid to speak her mind, and it tends to land her in a lot of trouble, and that's what ends up happening. She does something that causes her sister to get in trouble, and her sister is sent to prison, and she ends up taking her sister's place as a Grace. I enjoyed the parts of this book about the women empowerment thing and the different perspectives between the 2 sisters, but I do feel like this book almost pushed the women empowerment agenda a little too much. It became to the point where it was just a little cringy and a little too preachy, I guess is the correct word. Regardless, I enjoyed this book. There were some aspects I didn't quite agree with. It hypes itself up as women empowerment, but this male character within this book, he kind of ended up saving the day a lot of the times. Besides that, I actually ended up really liking this book. I gave it 4 stars. I would highly recommend it. It's really short. It's about 300 pages, so it's a really quick read and it's really fast paced, so it's not like there's any moments where the story just lags. It just continues going, and I really liked it, and I would highly recommend it for everyone. And then the next book that I read was another disappointment this month, and it is Sea Witch by Sarah Henning. This was the Once Upon a Read-Alongs book pick of started the month for the month of August. We had our live show the last Sunday of August. I'll leave it linked on the screen if you guys would like to check it out. But I was really excited for this book because this is a Little Mermaid retelling, but it's focusing on the origins of the Sea Witch. And so I've never read a Little Mermaid retelling, much less a retelling based on the Sea Witch, so I was really excited to get into this book, and I was really disappointed. I gave this book 2 stars, 2.5 stars. I felt like this book really didn't live up to its potential and its promise. Probably like 75% of the book felt really pointless, and I felt like nothing important was really happening, and I was really confused. And then the last 25%, it really picks up, and that's when the plot really thickens and escalates, and it gets really interesting. I don't like how the book ended, and I feel like the book ended abruptly. There was almost like no resolution to the ending, and I'm just like, I still don't know how I feel too much about this book, other than the fact that I'm really disappointed with it. I would not recommend this book unless you're a really big fan of The Little Mermaid and you're really interested to see how this book spins the story of the origins of the Sea Witch. Then go ahead, read this book. It's not very long. It's a little over 300 pages, but I'm just warning you, I don't think it's the best. And the final book that I read during the month of August ended on a high note because I really ended up enjoying this book, and it is The Program by Suzanne Young. This is the first book in what I looked up. There are 6 books in this series, and this is book number 1, but this book is set in a dystopian world where suicide has become a really big problem amongst teenagers. It's become an epidemic, and a lot of teenagers are just committing suicide, and so the government created what is called the program. And then basically, if you're a teenager and you exhibit signs of depression and that you're maybe on a path of committing suicide, they take you to the program where they try to rehabilitate you towards not committing suicide. But the way the program does it is not necessarily ethical, but the government is turning a blind eye to the program because it is successful. Basically 100% of patients who go into the program no longer exhibit signs of depression and suicide tendencies. The book ended up being really interesting. To be perfectly honest, I was not expecting much from this book. This was one of my wrapped books. I've had this book for years. It's been so long, and I never picked it up just because I lost interest in the book, and the book didn't sound that great, and I ended up loving it. I gave it 4 stars, and I cannot wait to continue on with the rest of the series. I hope they're just as good as this book was. So many things happened. It was really fast paced. And there you go, guys. That is all for my August wrap up. I had an incredible reading month, and I cannot believe that I managed to read 8 books. I hope I can continue to read as much as I can, even with school starting, so we'll see. Let me know down in the comments below how was your reading month, and let me know what your favorite book that you read during the month of August, because I would really love to know. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like if you did, and subscribe to my channel if you're not already. All of my social medias are linked down below, including Twitter, Instagram, and Goodreads if you like to follow me. I hope to see you guys on my next video. Have a good day, guys, and keep reading. Bye!